Dzisiaj naszym gościem jest Siri Pettersen, autorka bardzo niesamowitej sagi, która właściwie chyba trochę też zmienia nasze myślenie o tym, co się pisze w Skandynawii. Chciałabym Cię, Siri, na początek zapytać, ile Norwegii jest w Twoich książkach? To znaczy, kiedy czytam opisy wiosek, które są w Twoich książkach, na ile widzę Norwegię dzisiejszą, a może Norwegię z Twojego dzieciństwa?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question.
Is it?
Yes, it is. I wasn't aware that it's perceived that way, to be different from other things in Scandinavia. But then a lot of things happened when the books were published. So most likely a lot of people feel that way. But I think I'm very shaped in my writing by where I grew up. I grew up far, far, far north. And I mean far north is where Norway bends on the map, which is very far north.
Wow.
We don't have sun all year. It's mostly dark. It's wild. It's not very populated. There are really beautiful black mountains that like stoop into the sea, and the sea is roaring, and it's northern lights, and it's and we have 2 months of summer, something like that, where the sun never sets. And we have winter for the rest of the year, and I mean dark, dark winter. You can't see a meter in front of you. So there are no real Norwegian villages or towns in the books, but I think if you're from Norway or Scandinavia, you will recognize nature. You will see it as Norwegian, especially with the trees and all the like pine forests and the climate. It's very Norwegian. It is. And the cold and the ice.
Quite a lot of things.
Yeah.
Mówiłam o tym, że Twoje książki, przynajmniej w Polsce, trochę zmieniają nasze myślenie o tym, co się pisze w Skandynawii, bo dziś Skandynawia dla nas tutaj to przede wszystkim, rzecz jasna, skandynawskie kryminały, które podbiły nie tylko Polskę, ale właściwie całą Europę, chyba i nawet cały świat. Natomiast tak naprawdę na przestrzeni wieków Skandynawia kojarzyła się przede wszystkim z sagami, i z mitami, z bardzo mocno rozbudowaną mitologią. Chciałam Cię zapytać o to, jak właśnie ta część Waszej kultury kształtuje to, co Ty piszesz, jak piszesz.
Also a very interesting question. This is going to be a great day.
You're one of my favorite guests, I must tell you.
You're very sweet to say so. Thank you. Oh, that's nice. Well, it's true. It's true that crime is sort of the thing Norway is known for. We have Jon Esbø and everything, and Jørn Lerhorst, and everybody's heard about them, Unni Lindell, and people go crazy for these books. And I've never actually read crime.
Really?
Really.
Oh.
Not once. Not by choice, but you see, there are so many books with dragons. So I never get around to it, but I promised I will, and I should. But the thing is, a lot of people told me that the second book in this series resembles Norwegian crime novels. It's sort of a fantasy noir, somebody said, because it's in modern times, which is a huge spoiler, sorry. But that's true. But some people might be disappointed when they find out that these books are not actually about Norse mythology, because they're not. The only thing that's really from Norse mythology is the Odin's child, the title.
Yeah, the title.
Odin is it's the only place it's mentioned, really. And the reason it's mentioned is because in this world where the books take place, they call the humans Odin's children because Odin used to be the god of humans. They didn't care much for him. And I think there's one place in the book where I hint at the fact that Odin was a human. He came to Imslana to steal some ravens. It didn't go too well, so they strung him from a tree, and everyone who knows the Nordic myths would know where that comes from. But that's also like mentioned briefly from some icons on a wall at Ravnhov. So it's not really about Norse mythology, and it's not really about from the sagas, but it's very difficult as a writer to separate yourself from the sagas that are a part of your cultural heritage. So you will recognize things. You will recognize in every name, like Ravnhov, like Imslana. Ym was the giant that created the world. You will remember that, and you will know that it's part of it. And the most important thing is Avna itself, like the holistic force that flows in the earth. By the end of the trilogy, you might start to think that it's actually the world tree that we know from that goes through 9 different worlds from Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
So it's there. It's a foundation, even though I tried to
escape.
Escape, yeah. That's a good way to put it. Even though I tried not to, it's still there. Yeah. But there's also a reason why I changed a few of the names or a few of the things to avoid them being exactly the same. And the main reason is that nothing actually travels through cultures and history and stays the same. Everything is changed. And I really wanted people to have a feeling that it's not exactly the same, but it's familiar. So maybe at some point there was a cultural exchange between worlds, and maybe our entire mythology is based on something that might have been real somewhere else. Familiar, but not the same. So that's why I just kind of bordered on the myths, if you know.
Zaczynałaś jednak tak naprawdę od komiksów.
Yes and no. Yes, I did. I used to do comics. But the thing is, I always loved stories, and it never really mattered to me what form they took. If it was illustration or design or comics or writing, it's not really important as long as they're stories. And to be honest, in the beginning, when I had the first ideas for Odin's Child, I thought that it might be a graphic novel. But it quickly grew out of hand. Also, I read Blade of the Immortal, the manga series, and I decided I can't draw. So, so I wrote instead.
Okay. Ten sposób myślenia obrazami, który wynika z takiej miłości do komiksów, jest bardzo wyraźny w Twoich książkach, ale tym, co mnie najbardziej ujęło, to, że wymyśliłaś język. Proszę, opowiedz, jak ten język powstał.
Thank you. Yes, I think probably you're right that the visual is very visible in my writing, because I tend to see scenes very clearly beforehand.
They're like movies scenes.
Thank you.
You know, like
I'm so glad you say so, because I don't like description. I don't like reading description, and I don't like writing description. So what I do is I'm probably influenced by the way some Asian movies are made. It's like they decide that this scene is going to be about bamboo. And it's all about bamboo, and they remove everything else except the bamboo. And you know what they want, you know what they're after. And I try to do the same. I try to make conscious choices about what to show and what not to show. So instead of telling people in detail what someone looked like or what the place looked like, just pick the few things that will stand out. And the language, well, it's like if you write a fantasy, you need a map. That's what defines it as a fantasy. And if you if you write fantasy, you're also going to want at some point to do your own language, because people will have their own language. I didn't do it myself. I'm not a linguist. So I tried, and I found word, and I was really interested, and I tried to put things together. I was sitting in a coffee shop working, and it was right before the first book was published. And I remember working on all the names, and I thought, well, this should probably come from Norse, but it's not supposed to be Norse, and it might have evolved into Norse. And then I thought to myself, I wish I knew someone who knew Old Norse languages. And 2 seconds after that, I hear someone behind me say, well, when I did my master's degree in the Old Nordic languages, and I'm like, did this just happen? And I turn around, and he's standing there talking to his girlfriend about his master's degree in ancient Norse, And I just had to say hello and explain what I was doing. And obviously he's a fantasy geek as well, and his girlfriend is an archaeologist, and we just really hit it off. So it was an incredible story. I still can't believe that actually happened.
I have. I'm shivering.
But he's marvelous, and what I did, I just told him what I was looking for, and I said, well, these people worship ravens, and they can even turn into them, some of them. So it should probably be a heavy consonant, or core kind of hard language that you could recognize from birds, but also some Nordic elements. And he just went to work, and it's huge. and it's so complex, like you would not believe. There's a few words and a few phrases in the books because I didn't want a dictionary, but we're probably going to have to publish the dictionary by itself because the language is complete and it's speakable and learnable. I have no
Use
chance.
it now.
It's complicated, yeah. But it's. I'm really glad I found him. His name is Alexander, so he's a great guy.
Great. Więc to jest naprawdę niesamowita historia. To po prostu chyba dobre duchy ze skandynawskich sag spłynęły na ciebie wówczas. Ale podobno na początku wcale tak łatwo nie było, bo napisałaś 5 wersji książki Dziecka Odyna, zanim w ogóle poszłaś do wydawcy. Dlaczego tak dużo?
Well, the thing is that writing your first book, it's a really innocent process because you have no idea what you're doing and you don't know the book industry and you don't know what a good story is really. I really want to write this story. And you start writing. And that's what I did. And then I realized that this is not a good story. It's fun to write, but it's not a good story. So what makes a story good? And I wrote it again and again.
No,
and at some point, it's almost 4 or 5 times at least. But it was mostly done, I just had to change the order of things. But the thing is that writing and describing and telling something, it's quite different from organizing a good story. So at some point I wrote out all the scenes and I put them on the wall and I looked at them and I said, well, if this was music, what would I want? I would want it to go where's the drama and where's the quiet parts and everything. Like an idiot. Like nobody ever had the problem of organizing or structuring a story ever before. But I was new to this. And then I started searching for story structure and story layout, and I read a lot of books on the topics, and then it dawned on me, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, I understand now. So it made sense how we like good stories to be told. So the first one was written many times before I was happy with it and sent it. But I write the other ones really differently now. I don't write a single word until they're all planned out in Excel format, so I know where the turning points are and how the threads are connected, because there are a lot of threads. It's quite big. So and that saves me a lot of work.
Okay, I see.
But yeah, so you learn as you go. The others were easier to create, but I hope they get better from it. It's not as impressive as it sounds. If you don't write anything, if you haven't written a book, it might sound impressive, but I don't know if it's true, but I heard that Hemingway on average wrote his book 25 times.
Twoją główną bohaterką jest dziewczyna, to po pierwsze. Po drugie jest ruda, po trzecie nigdzie nie pasuje. Po czwarte, najgorszym ze światów, do którego ją wysyłasz, jest moim zdaniem świat współczesny, po prostu Europa, po której ona się musi w drugim tomie przemieszczać. No to jest, owszem, powieść fantasy, ale tak naprawdę to jest bardzo smutna opowieść o współczesności. Czy się mylę?
It's true, she travels through different worlds, and I always imagined that the last one would be the worst. But you're right, in some way it isn't, because at least their differences is very clear from the get-go. You know who's who, and you know who matters and who doesn't. It's not so clear in our world. It's still there, but nobody will admit it. And I think that it's a different kind of cruelty in our world than in, for instance, the land of the blind. They have a more direct cruelty. They say it like it is, but in our world she discovers that she doesn't really mean anything unless she has the money or the papers or the right language or knows the right people. And a lot of people she meets live on the outskirts of society and operate on the outskirts of society because they don't have the right papers or the right amount of money or the right nationality. So I understand why you think that, and I don't disagree necessarily.
And that's sad.
It's different kinds of cruelty.
Yeah. To ostatnie pytanie na koniec. Muszę o to zapytać. Co z ekranizacją? I kto będzie grał główną rolę?
Well, that's That's interesting because we did sell the option for film, and they're working on the early stages of the script, but and they just renewed the option. I haven't read anything yet, so I'm not sure where they're going, and it's going to be really exciting. And I didn't want to be involved in the script writing because I don't know how to write movie scripts. Somebody else would probably know that better than me. But I did want to be involved in the visuals, and I don't. There's been a lot of ideas for who they would cast as Hirka or Rime. I have a lot of I don't remember her name. Arya from the, I think Rebis had an idea to cast, or was it maybe the Czech publisher, to have the girl that played Arya in the Game of Thrones, and Draco Malfoy, Tom, don't remember his name either. But the only thing, the only idea I have that I would really, really love is to cast Mads Mikkelsen as Urd.
Thank you.
As Urd, yes. Mads Mikkelsen.
Great.
Agreed. Yes, Mads Mikkelsen as Urd would be absolutely fantastic, and his brother Lars would do really well as Darkdagar also, I think. So, if you know Mads Mikkelsen,
well,
please let him know.
Not yet, not yet, but
you never know.
Try.
Let's make an effort. You know.
Thank you.
I've tried to say so wherever I go,
Okay.
hoping he hears it.
Fingers crossed. Thank you very much. Dziękuję.
Thank you.
Dziękuję.